The great hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as the holographic display showed the dying star. Valrios Prime's sun was burning itself out faster than anyone had predicted. The planet below, home to 4.3 million Velran people, would be dead in less than 3 months. Ambassador Park Dae-yun stood among the representatives of 100 worlds. He watched the data scroll across the screens. Temperature rising, radiation increasing, time running out. The Velran were a peaceful species, their bodies covered in soft crystalline patterns that glowed with gentle light. They had never hurt anyone. They had no enemies. But now they were dying, and nobody wanted to help, the Craver representative spoke first. His voice was harsh and mechanical through the translator. The Velran require specific atmospheric conditions. Moving them would cost too much. We cannot justify the expense. Dae-yun felt his jaw tighten. The Craver Empire had 300 warships. They could spare the resources. They simply chose not to. Next came the Synthery Collective's response. Their representative was an artificial being, all smooth metal and cold logic. Our analysis shows a 73% chance of relocation failure. The Velran biology is too fragile. This is an inefficient use of resources. One by one, the great powers of the galaxy gave their reasons. Too expensive, too difficult, too risky, not our problem. The ancient Elmari, who had lived for thousands of years, said the Velran were simply unlucky. Sometimes species die. It was the way of the universe. Elder Thesa appeared on the main screen. She was the leader of the Velran people, and she looked tired. Her crystalline features had lost their usual glow. Behind her, Dae-yun could see Velran families huddled together in emergency shelters. Children pressed against their parents. Everyone was afraid. "Please," Thesa said softly. Her empathic nature meant she could feel the emotions in the room, even across the vast distance. "We are not asking for much. Just a chance to live, a place to go. We will work. We will contribute. We only ask for mercy." The Craver representative muted her transmission without a word. The vote was called. One by one, the species of the Galactic Council registered their decision. The display showed the results in cold, clear numbers. 47 voted to classify the Velran as non-viable for relocation. 23 abstained. 8 voted to help. Humanity was among the 8. "The motion fails," announced the council speaker. "The Velran situation is declared a natural catastrophe beyond council intervention. This session is closed." Dae-yun slammed his hand on his console. The sound echoed in the emptying chamber. Most representatives were already leaving, returning to their ships, putting the dying Velran out of their minds. But Dae-yun activated his communicator. "Get me Captain Han Jiwoo," he said 2 hours later. Jiwoo stood in his ready room aboard the Horizon's Promise. His ship was a relief vessel, designed for rescue operations and humanitarian missions. It was not large. It was not powerful. Compared to the massive ships of the Craver or Synthery, it was barely worth noticing. But it was fast, and it had a good crew. The message from Ambassador Dae-yun appeared on his screen. Jiwoo listened to the report from the council session. He listened to the vote. He listened to the cold mathematics that had decided 4.3 million lives were not worth saving. "What are our orders?" Jiwoo asked. Dae-yun's face was grim. "Officially, Earth Command cannot order you to do this. The Council has forbidden intervention. Going to Valrios Prime could damage our diplomatic standing. And unofficially? Unofficially, Captain, I am asking you as one human to another. Will you go?" Jiwoo looked out at the stars through his viewport. He thought about Earth's history. He thought about all the times humanity had been on the edge of destruction, the wars, the plagues, the environmental collapse. Other species had helped Earth back then, not because it was profitable, not because humans were powerful, but because it was the right thing to do. "We will go," Jiwoo said. "Prepare the crew." He called his senior officers to the briefing room. Dr. Kim Nari arrived first. She was his chief medical officer, a xenobiologist who had studied dozens of alien species. She took one look at his face and knew something big was coming. Engineer Lee Sang-hoon came next, wiping grease from his hands. He kept the ship running, often with spare parts and creative thinking. Lieutenant Choi Min-ha, his tactical officer, arrived last. She was young but sharp, one of the best pilots in the fleet. Ji-woo explained the situation. He showed them the data from Velrios Prime, the dying star, the doomed planet, the 4.3 million people waiting to die. He told them about the council vote. Nobody is coming to help them, he said, except us. Sang-hoon whistled low. Captain, our ship can carry maybe 200 Velrin at a time, maybe, and that is if we gut the cargo holds and retrofit them with life support. We are talking about millions of people. I know, Ji-woo said. The solar radiation will fry our shields if we get too close, Min-ha added. We would need to make hundreds of trips through a radiation storm. I know, Ji-woo repeated. Dr. Kim Nari spoke quietly. People will die. Maybe some of our crew? Maybe many Velrin, even if we try our best? I know, Ji-woo said for the third time. He looked at each of them. I am not ordering anyone to come. This mission is not official. If you want to transfer off this ship, I will approve it. No questions asked. No mark on your record. The room was silent for a long moment. Sang-hoon stood up first. I will start working on those cargo hold modifications. Min-ha nodded. I will plot the fastest course to Velrios Prime. Dr. Kim Nari smiled sadly. I will prepare the medical bay. We will need a lot of supplies. Ji-woo felt something tight in his chest loosen slightly. Thank you. The Horizon's Promise turned toward Velrios Prime. In the command center, Ji-woo watched the star grow larger on the view screen. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations. Below, in the cargo holds, Sang-hoon and his engineering team were already tearing out storage compartments to make room for refugees. Ji-woo activated the ship-wide communication system. His voice carried to every deck, every corridor, every crew cabin. This is the captain, he said. We are going to do something the galaxy says is impossible. We are going to save people who everyone else has abandoned. It will be hard. It will be dangerous, but it is right, and that is enough. Across human space, his message was received. In homes and stations and ships, people heard about the Velrin. They heard that one human vessel was going to try to save millions of people. Many shook their heads, calling it foolish. But many others started preparing their own ships. Civilian transports, cargo haulers, private vessels. They began plotting courses to Velrios Prime. The galaxy had abandoned the Velrin. Humanity was just getting started. The Horizon's Promise dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Velrios system. Captain Han Ji-woo gripped his command chair as the viewscreen filled with fire. The star was dying violently, throwing massive flares into space. Each eruption sent deadly radiation cascading across the system. Shields at maximum, Lieutenant Choi Min-ha reported. Her hands moved quickly across her console. But Captain, those flares will tear through them if we get too close. Ji-woo nodded. He had expected this. How long do we have? Dr. Kim Nari pulled up the latest data. The planet has maybe 6 weeks left. After that, the surface temperature will be too hot for the Velrin to survive, even in their biodomes. 6 weeks. 4.3 million people. One ship. The numbers were impossible. But Ji-woo had not come here to look at numbers. He had come here to save lives. Take us in, he ordered. Carefully. The ship moved through the storm of radiation like a needle threading through fire. Min-ha piloted with steady hands, dodging the worst of the solar flares. When they finally reached orbit, Ji-woo got his first real look at Velrios Prime. The planet was beautiful, even dying. Oceans sparkled between continents. But across the surface, he could see the biodomes where the Velrin had retreated. They glowed with soft light, like jewels scattered on silk. Each dome held thousands of people. Open a channel to the surface, Ji-woo said. Elder Thesa appeared on the screen. Relief flooded her crystalline features when she saw him. You came. The council said no one would come. The council was wrong, Ji-woo said simply. We are here to evacuate your people. All of them. Thesa's glow dimmed. Captain, that is impossible. There are too many of us. And my people cannot survive in normal ship environments. We need specific air pressure, specific gas mixtures, specific temperature. We are too difficult to save. Let us worry about that, Jiwoo said. Just get your people ready to move. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Sang-hoon, how are those cargo holds coming? The engineer appeared on the internal monitor. He was covered in sweat and looked exhausted. We have torn out half the storage systems. I can give you life support for about 200 Velrin per trip. But Captain, the environmental controls are tricky. If we get the mixture wrong, they will suffocate. Then we will not get it wrong, Jiwoo said. He looked at Dr. Kim Nari. You need to go down to the surface. Work with the Velrin scientists. Figure out exactly what they need to survive. Nari nodded and headed for the shuttle bay. Within the hour, she was descending through the toxic atmosphere of Velrios Prime. The planet was already dying. The air outside the biodomes was becoming poisonous. The temperature was rising day by day. She landed near the largest dome and was escorted inside by Velrin guards. The people inside watched her with large, fearful eyes. Many of them had never seen a human before. To them, she was an alien coming from a strange world. But she was also their only hope. A Velrin scientist named Mara approached her. Dr. Kim, I am honored to meet you. We received your message. You want to help us? We do, Nari said. But I need to understand your biology better. What exactly do you need to survive? Mara led her through the dome, explaining as they walked. The Velrin needed air with 38% oxygen compared to Earth's 21%. They needed humidity at exactly 67%. Their body temperature was lower than humans, so they needed cooler environments. And the pressure had to be carefully controlled, or their crystalline structures would crack. It is very specific, Mara said apologetically. We know we are difficult. Everyone is difficult in their own way, Nari said. She was already making notes, sending data back to the ship. We will make it work. For 3 days, Nari and Mara worked together. They designed portable environmental suits that could keep a Velrin alive during transport. They calculated the exact settings needed for the cargo holds. They tested and retested every system. On the ship, Sang-hoon worked miracles. He took apart the environmental systems and rebuilt them. He used spare parts, recycled materials, and pure engineering creativity. When he was done, the cargo holds were crude, ugly, and uncomfortable. But they would keep Velrin alive. First group is ready, Sang-hoon reported. We can take 200. Jiwoo gave the order. The first shuttle launched from the surface, carrying Velrin families. They came aboard the Horizon's Promise with everything they could carry. Children clutched toys. Adults carried data crystals holding memories and history. Everyone looked terrified. Lieutenant Minha guided them to the cargo holds. The Velrin stared at the makeshift chambers. It was not pretty. Pipes ran everywhere. The lighting was harsh. But when the environmental systems activated, the Velrin felt the right air, the right pressure, the right temperature. Some of them started crying with relief. Among them was a young Velrin child named Kes. She was frightened and stayed close to her mother. But when Dr. Kim Nari knelt down to check her over, Kes felt something through her empathic senses. She felt genuine care. This human stranger truly wanted to help. Kes reached out and touched Nari's hand. Thank you, she whispered. Nari smiled. You are safe now. I promise. The Horizon's Promise made its first run to the nearest human outpost. The journey took 4 days. The Velrin stayed in the cargo holds, frightened but alive. When they arrived, human colonists were waiting with temporary shelters and supplies. Jiwoo did not stay. As soon as the Velrin were safely transferred, he turned the ship around and headed back to Velrios Prime. 200 saved. 4.29 million to go. On the second trip, things went wrong. They were loading the third group of Velrin when the star erupted. A massive solar flare burst from the surface, sending a wall of radiation toward the planet. The ship's alarm screamed. Shields failing. Minha shouted. We need to leave now. But there were still Velrin boarding. Families running up the shuttle ramps. children being carried by their parents. If they left now, those people would be stranded. Hold position, Jiwoo ordered. Captain, the radiation will kill us all, Sang-hoon yelled over the comm. Hold position. Jiwoo repeated. The radiation wall hit them like a hammer. The shields flickered and died. Emergency systems kicked in, trying to protect the crew. In the cargo holds, the Velrun felt the ship shake and held each other in fear. On the bridge, sparks flew from consoles. Minha was thrown from her seat. The lights went out, replaced by emergency red glow, but Jiwoo kept the ship steady. He counted seconds in his head. The last shuttle docked. The last family was aboard. Now, he shouted. Get us out of here. The Horizon's promise lurched away from the planet. Behind them, the solar flare washed over where they had been moments before. If they had been there 5 more seconds, everyone would have died. In engineering, Sang-hoon assessed the damage. Shields are fried. Hull plating is damaged. Half our sensors are offline. He looked up at the camera. Captain, we got lucky. We cannot take another hit like that. Jiwoo sat in his damaged command chair. They had saved 400 Velrun total. Less than 1% of the population. Send a message to Earth Command, he said quietly. Tell them we need help. Tell them we need every ship they can send. The message went out across human space. Captain Han Jiwoo, aboard a damaged relief vessel, was trying to evacuate millions of people from a dying world. He was asking for volunteers. The galaxy watched and waited to see if anyone would answer. The message from Captain Han Jiwoo reached Earth 3 days after the solar flare incident. By then, news of the rescue operation had spread across the entire galaxy. Alien news networks broadcast images of the damaged. Horizon's promise limping back to Velrios Prime. They showed human crew members working without sleep. Trying to save people the Council had abandoned. Some species mocked the effort. The Craver Empire issued a statement calling it wasteful. Sentimentality. The Synthery Collective calculated that humanity was spending resources inefficiently and predicted mission failure within 2 weeks, but others watched with different eyes. On Earth, in a small apartment in Seoul, a cargo ship captain named Yoon Ji-ae saw the broadcast. She was retired, living on her pension. Her ship, the New Dawn, was old and slow. She used it to haul supplies between colonies, nothing glamorous. But when she saw those Velrun families huddled in makeshift cargo holds, something stirred in her chest. She called her old crew. Most of them were scattered across different jobs now. But one by one they said yes. Within a week, the New Dawn was loaded with supplies and heading toward Velrios Prime. She was not alone. Across human space, dozens of civilian ships answered the call. Mining vessels. Colony transports. Even a few luxury cruise ships whose owners decided profit could wait. They came from Earth, Mars, Europa, and 100 human settlements. Some were captained by veterans. Others were piloted by civilians who had never seen combat. They all went to Velrios Prime. When Captain Jiwoo saw the first civilian ships arrive, he felt something break inside him. Relief, gratitude, hope. He opened a channel to all vessels. Thank you for coming, he said simply. His voice was rough with emotion. Let us bring these people home. The rescue operation became a fleet action. Human ships formed a rotation system. Some would ferry Velrun to safety while others underwent repairs. Dr. Kim Nari trained civilian medical officers on Velrun biology. Engineer Lee Sang-hoon shared his cargo hold modifications with other ships. Everyone worked together. On the surface of Velrios Prime, Elder Thesa coordinated the evacuation. She organized her people by dome, by family, by need. The sick and young went first, then the old, then everyone else. The Velrun were orderly and patient, even as their world burned above them. Young Kes, the child who had touched Dr. Kim Nari's hand, stayed close to the human doctor. Nari had unofficially adopted her after discovering Kes's mother had died in an accident weeks before the son started dying. The child followed Nari everywhere, learning human words. Watching the humans work, through her empathic senses, Kes felt what the humans felt. She felt their exhaustion. She felt their fear. But most of all, she felt their determination. These strange aliens from a distant world were killing themselves to save her people. She did not understand why. Her empathic senses told her it was genuine, but it made no logical sense. One day she asked Nari, "Why do you help us?" "We cannot pay you. We have nothing you need." Nari paused in her work. She looked at the young Velren, at her crystalline features and glowing patterns. "Because you needed help," she said. "That is reason enough. But your people could die. Your ship is damaged. You gain nothing." "We gain the knowledge that we did the right thing," Nari said. "Sometimes, Kes, that is worth more than money or power." The child thought about this. In Velren culture, actions were based on mutual benefit and emotional harmony. But humans seemed to operate on different principles. They helped even when it hurt them. It was fascinating and strange. The rescue operation continued. Every day, thousands more Velren were evacuated. But every day, the star grew more unstable. Solar flares became more frequent and more violent. On the 40th day, Captain Yunjie was making a run with 300 Velren aboard the New Dawn. She was an experienced pilot, careful and skilled. But the star erupted without warning. A flare 10 times larger than any before, the radiation wall caught her ship at close range. Her shields collapsed instantly. The hull started to melt. Jie screamed into her communicator. "I am hit. Systems failing. I have 300 souls on board." Captain Yiwu heard the call. The Horizon's promise was an hour away. Too far? Too slow. But Lieutenant Choi Minha did not hesitate. "Captain, if I push the engines past safety limits, I can get there in 30 minutes. "Do it," Jiwo ordered. The Horizon's promise shot forward, engines screaming. Minha flew like a demon, dodging radiation bursts and debris. Behind her, Sang-hoon watched the engine readings climb into the red zone. "We are going to burn out the engines." He yelled, "Then we burn them out." Jiwoo yelled back. They reached the New Dawn just as her life support failed. Minha brought the ships close, hull to hull. Sang-hoon extended an emergency docking tube. Human crew members rushed aboard the damaged vessel and started pulling. Velren threw to safety in the New Dawn's engine room. A young human engineer named Osumin was trying to keep the reactor from exploding. The containment field was collapsing. If it went, both ships would be destroyed. She worked frantically, rerouting power, bypassing burned circuits. But there was a breach in the containment chamber, and it was growing. Someone needed to manually seal it from inside. But the radiation in that chamber would kill whoever went in. Sumin looked at the 300. Velren being evacuated through the corridor above her. She thought about Captain Jiwoo's message. About doing what was right. She sealed her helmet and opened the containment chamber door. The radiation hit her like a wall. Her suit's alarm screamed. She had maybe 2 minutes before the exposure killed her. She moved to the breach and activated the manual sealant. The material flowed like liquid metal, filling the crack. 1 minute left. The seal was halfway done. 30 seconds. Almost there, the seal completed. The containment field stabilized. The reactor would hold. Sumin collapsed. Her suit's medical readout showed lethal radiation exposure. She was dying. Over the communicator she heard Captain Yoon Jihee's voice. "Everyone is off. Both ships are clear. You saved them, Sumin? You saved them all?" Sumin smiled. "Good," she whispered. "That is good." She died there, alone in that burning engine room. The 300 Velren and 2 ship crews lived because of her choice. News of Sumin's sacrifice spread across the galaxy within hours. The Galactic Council received the report. Some representatives dismissed it as unfortunate but irrelevant. But others, particularly the younger species, began to question the Council's decision. One of them was Targ, a junior representative from the Craver Empire. He had voted with his government to abandon the Velren. It was logical. It was practical. But watching a human die to save people she had never met. People her species gained nothing from saving. made him question everything he thought he knew about logic and practicality. Late one night, he accessed the Craver navigation database. He pulled up the safest routes through the Velrio system, the ones calculated by Craver military ships. Then he encrypted the data and sent it anonymously to Captain Han Ji-woo. It was not much. He could not openly defy his government. But perhaps he could help in secret. When Ji-woo received the navigation data, he knew immediately it came from the Craver. The encryption was their style. Someone on the council was helping them. He saved the data and used it. The safer routes cut travel time by 20%. More Velrin were saved. Fewer ships were damaged. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Park Dae-yun received a formal censure for humanity's reckless and unauthorized interference in a Council-classified natural catastrophe. He accepted it without comment, and went back to coordinating supply shipments. To Velrios Prime, the galaxy was changing, slowly, quietly, but changing. The scientists had been wrong. Velrios Prime's star was not going to last 6 weeks. New readings showed it would become uninhabitable in less than 10 days. The time had been cut by more than half. Captain Han Ji-woo stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise, staring at the data. Behind him, his crew worked in grim silence. They had evacuated 2.1 million Velrin so far. That meant 2.2 million remained on the dying planet below. 10 days. It was impossible. Dr. Kim Nari came to stand beside him. Young Kes was with her as always. The Velrin child had become a constant presence in the medical bay, helping where she could, learning human medicine alongside her own people's healing techniques. "We cannot save them all," Nari said quietly. She hated the words even as she spoke them. "The numbers do not work." Giwu closed his eyes. He had known this moment would come. He had hoped it would not. But mathematics was mathematics, and time was time. "We keep going until the last second," he said. "Every life we save matters." A new signal appeared on the communication board. Lieutenant Choi Minha looked up in surprise. "Captain, we have multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Military configuration. It is Earth's second fleet." Jiwoo turned to the view screen. Sure enough, dozens of military vessels appeared in formation. Destroyers, frigates, heavy transports. At their head was the flagship Unbroken, commanded by Admiral Song Hyun-woo. The admiral's face appeared on screen. He was an older man, gray-haired and stern, but his eyes were kind. "Captain Ji-woo," Hyun-woo said. "I heard you needed help. Sorry we are late. We had to requisition these ships against some very angry bureaucrats back home." Ji-woo felt his throat tighten. "Admiral, you could face court-martial for this." Hyun-woo shrugged. "Then I will face it. Right now, we have work to do. Give me the evacuation plan." With the Second Fleet's arrival, the operation changed. Military efficiency combined with civilian determination. Admiral Hyun-woo organized the ships into strike groups. Each group had specific evacuation zones and strict timetables. The civilian vessels were integrated into the plan, their captains coordinating with military officers. Engineer Lee Sang-hoon worked with the fleet's chief engineer to develop a new system. They called it the Daisy Chain. Smaller, faster ships would tether to larger transports and pull them through the most dangerous zones. It was risky and had never been tested, but they had no choice. On the surface, Elder Thesa moved among her people. The biodomes were emptying. Whole cities stood abandoned. The Velrin gathered at designated pickup zones, organized by human and Velrin volunteers working together. Everyone knew time was running out. The sky above was filled with fire as the star tore itself apart. Thesa broadcast a message to the galaxy. Her image appeared on every news network, every council chamber screen, every station in known space. "My people are dying," she said. Her voice was calm but heavy with sorrow. The great species of the galaxy calculated that we were not worth saving. But humanity did not calculate. They simply came. They asked for nothing. They gave everything. Some of them have died protecting us. And still they come. She paused. her crystalline features glowing with emotion. "I do not know if we will all survive. But I know this. Humanity has shown the galaxy what true civilization looks like. Not power, not wealth, but compassion. Thank you, humans of Earth. Whatever happens, you have given us hope." The broadcast ended. In council chambers across the galaxy, representatives sat in uncomfortable silence. Some looked away. Others began to wonder if they had made a mistake. The evacuation continued at a brutal pace. Ships ran around the clock. Crews worked without sleep. Humans and Velran collapsed from exhaustion and were revived with stimulants and determination. Everyone pushed past their limits. On the seventh day, Lieutenant Choi Minha volunteered for a dangerous solo mission. There was an isolated biodome in the southern continent, far from the main evacuation zones. 2,000 Velran were trapped there, and the dome's life support was failing. No other ships could reach them in time. "I can get there," Minha said. "The Promise's shuttle is fast enough." "The radiation in that sector will kill you," Jiwoo said. "Only if I am slow," Minha replied. She smiled. "I am not slow, Captain." He wanted to refuse. He wanted to order her to stay. But he looked at the faces of those 2,000 Velran on the monitor and knew he could not. "Go," he said. "But you come back." "That is an order." Minha took the shuttle and flew like her life depended on it. Because it did. And so did 2,000 others. She pushed the small craft to its absolute limits, racing through radiation storms and solar flares. Her shields burned away. Her hull plating started to glow from the heat. She reached the dome with minutes to spare. The Velran were waiting, already suited up. They boarded in organized groups, moving quickly but not panicking. When the last one was aboard, Minha turned the shuttle around and pushed the engines past every safety limit. Behind her, the biodome collapsed. If she had been 5 minutes later, everyone would have died. The shuttle screamed back toward the horizon's promise. Sparks flew from every system. The engine was literally on fire. But Minha held it together through sheer will and skill. She docked hard, the shuttle slamming into the bay with a crash that echoed through the entire ship when the doors opened. 2,000 Velran stumbled out, alive and safe. Minha collapsed in the pilot's seat. Shaking from adrenaline and radiation sickness, Dr. Kim Nari rushed to treat her, but Minha was smiling. "Got them all, Doc," she whispered. "Every single one." On the 9th day, disaster struck. A solar ejection larger than any before erupted from the dying star. It caught 3 human ships at close range. The vessels tried to escape, but the radiation was too intense. Their shields failed. Their hulls melted. 40-7 humans died in those ships. Some were military. Some were civilian volunteers. All of them were heroes. Among them was Captain Yoon Jie of the New Dawn. Her ship, already damaged from before, could not withstand the assault. In her final transmission, she reported that all her Velran passengers had been successfully transferred to another vessel. She had stayed behind to ensure the transfer was complete. "Tell Earth we did good," she said. Then her signal cut out across the fleet. Crews mourned. But there was no time to stop. The star was in its final hours. Every second counted. Admiral Song Hyun-woo coordinated the final push. Every ship, every shuttle, every craft capable of flight was sent to the surface. They loaded Velran as fast as physically possible. Families were split up, to be reunited later. Speed was everything now. Captain Jiwoo watched the evacuation numbers climb. 2.5 million, 2.8 million, 3 million, 3.5 million. They were going to save most of them. Not all, but most. It was more than anyone thought possible. On the surface, Elder Thesa was among the last to leave. She stood in the empty square of what had been her capital city. Around her, the buildings stood silent. This had been her home for 300 years. Now it would become ash. A human shuttle pilot named Ro Jaewon landed beside her. "Elder, we need to go, now." Thesa nodded. She took one last look at her world, memorizing it. Then she boarded the shuttle and left Velrios Prime forever. 28 hours later, the star went supernova. The planet was consumed in fire, but by then every last Velran had been evacuated. The final count was 4.1 million souls saved. 98,000 had died despite the rescue efforts. Most of them had been too sick or injured to move. Some had stayed behind voluntarily, helping others evacuate until the very end. Every loss hurt. But 4.1 million lived. In orbit, the human fleet watched the star die. Jiwoo stood on his bridge, surrounded by his exhausted crew. Dr. Kim Nari held young Kes, who was crying for her lost world. Lieutenant Minha sat at her station, hands shaking. Engineer Sang-hoon had fallen asleep at his console. Admiral Hyun-woo's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, the evacuation is complete. You did the impossible. You saved a species. Be proud." Captain Jiwoo looked at the burning star one last time. 73 humans had died in this operation. Dozens of ships were damaged beyond repair. The cost had been high, but 4.1 million Velran were alive because they paid it. "Set course for New Sanctuary," Jiwoo ordered quietly. "Let us take them home." 3 months had passed since Velrios Prime died. Captain Hen Jiwoo stood on the observation deck of New Sanctuary Station, watching ships come and go from the planet below. The colony world had been terraformed by humans 20 years ago, but it was largely empty. When the Velran crisis happened, the colonial government had voted to share it. Now 4.1 million Velran called it home. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans and green continents reminded Jiwoo of Earth, but modifications had been made for the Velran. Atmospheric processes adjusted the air composition to match their needs. Climate control systems maintained the temperatures and humidity they required. It was not Velrios Prime, nothing could replace that. But it was a chance at life. Governor Shin Haijin joined him at the window. She was the administrator of New Sanctuary, responsible for managing the joint human-Velran settlement. It was not an easy job, but she approached it with patience and determination. "The integration is going better than expected," she said. "Human and Velran construction crews are working together to build permanent housing. We should have everyone out of temporary shelters within 6 months." Jiwoo nodded. Below, he could see the lights of the growing city. Human architecture mixed with Velran design, creating something new and unique. Children of both species played in parks designed for their different needs. It was hopeful. "Any problems?" he asked. "Small ones," Haijin admitted. "Cultural misunderstandings, communication difficulties, but nothing serious. Mostly, everyone is just grateful to be alive." On the planet's surface, Dr. Kim Nari worked in a medical facility that served both species. The building was designed with 2 sections. One maintained Earth-normal conditions for humans. The other matched Velran requirements. Staff moved between them through specially designed airlocks. Young Kes was with her, as always. The Velran child had been formally adopted by Nari after the evacuation. She was learning to live in 2 worlds now, human and Velran. She spoke both languages fluently. She understood both cultures. In many ways, she represented the future of New Sanctuary. Today, they were treating a human patient suffering from post-traumatic stress. The man had been a shuttle pilot during the evacuation. He had flown through radiation storms for days, watching friends die, pushing his craft past every safety limit. Now, 3 months later, the memories haunted him. Nari treated him with medication and therapy. But then Kes stepped forward. She placed her small, crystalline hand on the man's arm. Through her empathic abilities, she could feel his pain, his guilt, his nightmares. And she could send back feelings of peace, of reassurance, of gratitude. The man's breathing slowed. His shaking stopped. Tears ran down his face, but they were tears of relief. "Thank you," he whispered to Kes. "Thank you for letting me save you." Kes glowed brighter. "Thank you for caring enough to try." This had become common. Velran empaths were helping humans cope with the trauma of the rescue operation. In return, humans were sharing their technology, their medical knowledge, their resources. 2 species learning from each other, healing together. In the Galactic Council chambers, the atmosphere had changed. Ambassador Park Dae-yun stood before the assembly, delivering his quarterly report. But today was different. Today he was not alone. Elder Thesa stood beside him, representing the Velran people. She had been granted temporary observer status in the council, a rare honor. She spoke to the assembled species with quiet dignity. 3 months ago you calculated that my people were not worth saving, she said. You were wrong. We are here because one species decided that compassion was more important than calculation. Humanity showed the galaxy what true civilization means. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Velran are a peaceful people. We have no military. We have no wealth. But we have knowledge. We have empathic technology that can ease suffering and resolve conflicts. We offer this freely to any species that wants to learn from us, but especially to humanity, who gave us everything when we had nothing. The council chamber was silent. Many representatives looked uncomfortable. Some looked ashamed, but others looked thoughtful. After the session, 3 species approached Ambassador Dae-yun privately. The Talus Union, the Rift Collective, and the Harmony Sphere. All of them were younger species, newer to the galactic community. We were wrong to follow the Council's decision, the Talus representative said. We want to form formal alliances with humanity, not because of military power or economic benefit, but because we want to be the kind of civilization that helps, not abandons. Dae-yun smiled. We would be honored. But the biggest surprise came from an unexpected source. Council member Targ, the Craver representative who had secretly sent navigation data during the rescue, resigned from his position. He appeared before the council chambers and publicly announced his decision. I can no longer serve a government that values power over principle, he said. His voice was steady, though he knew he was ending his career. I watched a young human engineer die to save people she did not know. I watched civilian ship captains risk everything for strangers. I watched humanity do what we Craver called impossible and wasteful. He turned to face the Craver delegation. They were not wasteful. We were cowards. I resign my position and request asylum with the human government. I can no longer represent a species that calculates the value of life. The council erupted in chaos. The Craver Empire issued furious statements. But Targ had made his choice. Within a week, he was living on New Sanctuary, working with human and Velran relief organizations. He had lost everything he knew, but he had found something more valuable: purpose. Captain Jiwoo visited the memorial park one evening. It had been built on a hill overlooking the main settlement. 73 stones stood in a circle, each engraved with the name of a human who had died during the rescue. Oh Sumin, Captain Yoon Ji-ye, all the others who had given everything. Velran visited the memorial every day, leaving flowers and light crystals. It had become a sacred place, a reminder of the price of compassion. Jiwoo stood before Sumin's stone. She had been 24 years old, a junior engineer with her whole life ahead of her. She had chosen to die so others could live. I hope it was worth it, he said quietly. Behind him, Elder Thesa approached. She stood beside him, her crystalline form glowing softly in the twilight. It was worth it, she said. Every Velran child who grows up here will know what humanity sacrificed for us. We will never forget. She touched the stone gently. In Velran culture we have begun a new tradition. We call it Remembering the Compassionate Stars every year. On the anniversary of our rescue, we light crystals for those who saved us. Their names will be taught to every Velran child for generations. Jiwoo felt tears on his face. We just did what was right. That is what makes it beautiful, Thesa said. You did not calculate profit. You did not demand payment. You simply helped because we needed help. That is the definition of civilization. Months turned into years. New Sanctuary grew and prospered. Human and Velran children attended schools together. Scientists of both species collaborated on research. The Velran's empathic technology led to breakthroughs in mental health treatment. Human engineering combined with Velran understanding of crystalline structures created new materials. The settlement became a model for the galaxy. Other species came to study it. Some were inspired. Others remained skeptical. But none could deny its success. Captain Jiwoo received many medals and awards. He was invited to speak at universities and government assemblies. But he always said the same thing. "We are not special," he would tell people. "We are just humans who saw people in need and decided to help. Anyone could have done it. The tragedy is that no one else tried." Lieutenant Choi Minha recovered from her radiation exposure and became a training officer, teaching new pilots how to fly in dangerous conditions. Engineer Lee Sang-hoon wrote a manual on emergency life support systems that became standard reading in engineering schools. Dr. Kim Nari continued her work in the medical facility. With Kess always by her side, Admiral Song Hyun-woo did face a court-martial for requisitioning the Second Fleet without authorization. But the court took one look at the public support for his actions and dismissed all charges. He retired with honors and moved to New Sanctuary, where he served as a military advisor to the Planetary Defense Forces. Ambassador Park Dae-yeon remained at the Galactic Council, continuing to represent humanity. But now he had allies. The species that had been inspired by the Velran rescue worked with him. Slowly, carefully, they began to change the culture of the Council. Compassion began to matter as much as calculation. 10 years after the rescue, Kess graduated from the Joint University on New Sanctuary. She had studied both medicine and diplomacy. She spoke 5 languages fluently and understood the cultures of a dozen species. At her graduation, she gave a speech. "I was 8 years old when my world died," she said. Her crystalline features glowed as she spoke. "I was terrified. I thought I would die with it. But then humans came. They were strange and alien. They spoke differently. They thought differently, but they cared. That made all the difference." She looked at Dr. Kim Nari in the audience, the woman who had become her mother. "I am alive because humans decided that saving lives mattered more than convenience.